We'll start with the prayers. Om Sahana Bhavato Sahanau Bhunakto Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Dakshinamurthy Stotram. That's what is our text for study. I have introduced this text and we have started with the first verse of the text last week. This stotram is a very, very advanced topic in Vedanta. This contains the essence of the entire Upanishadic study. It contains the entire spiritual study and a final realization of the jiva, the oneness with the supreme reality. These verses are very, very loaded verses. They have very intense meaning in them. Even though superficially it may look to be simple, but it takes us very, very deep inside our own true nature. As I said, in the introduction to this text, Swami Chinmayananda says this is the PhD of the Vedanta. 10 crisp verses, and the overall structure you should remember is the Mahavakyam Tat Tvam Asi from Chandogya Upanishad. That is the basic structure of this text. The first verse talks about the jiva, Tvam Pada. The second verse talks about Tat Pada, the Ishvara. And then the third verse talks about the oneness between the jiva and Ishvara, which is Asipada. The fourth verse deals with the process of knowledge. How does knowledge takes place in us? And the fifth verse teaches us what are the common mistakes we do in identifying ourselves as the body, as the sense organs, as the prana, as our experience in sleep, which is ignorance, how we are totally deluded with the panchakoshas. And what is our real nature, as explained in Taittiriya Upanishad? Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Sat Chit Atma. So if you understand these 5 verses, you can see Chandogya Upanishad is taken, Taittiriya Upanishad is taken, Mandukya Upanishad is taken to analyze. So so much of content is there in these 5 verses. This text, you may have to listen again and again to get a deeper insight into the verses. Let's go straight to the first verse, which is the verse which we are going to study today. In this verse, we have covered up to slide number 32. That's where we stopped last time. The first verse, as I said, is about the jiva. It tells us how should I analyze, or how should I analyze my experiences in life, and how do I take myself to the essence of my core personality. In order to understand this, there are two examples which are taken in the first verse. One is a example which is seen in the waking state, Darpana Nagari. And this is a mirror in which we can see the entire city getting reflected. I will give you the gist again, and then we will go through the presentation. So the mirror is like the consciousness in us. So in this consciousness, we have so many experiences during the day. This is in us. Our core personality is the pure Chaitanya, which we all know from so many texts which we have studied. Right from Tattva Bodha onwards, we have said our nature is pure awareness. So in this pure awareness, the pure awareness is compared to a mirror. And like in a mirror, you have a reflection which appears for some time and it disappears. Similarly, in our consciousness, which is the core awareness principle in us, we experience the body, we experience the world. When we experience the body in the waking state, we experience the external world. What the teaching here is, what the teaching of Shankaracharya here is, like in a city which is reflected, this all our experiences of the waking state are getting reflected in this pure consciousness. They appear and disappear. All, completely. The entire cosmos which we experience in our waking state. How this happens, the actual process, we will see in the fourth verse. He will explain to us how does this happen. But here it is pure example. He is just saying, like in a mirror, the reflection comes and goes. In our original nature, which is eternal nature of pure awareness, the entire experience of the waking state throughout our life happens and it disappears. The consciousness awareness principle continuously exists. It is the Sat, pure existence principle. It is the Chit, consciousness awareness principle. And in this consciousness, all our experiences, when they come and go, don't take them as number two, as another object which exists, but take it as a dependent object of consciousness. The entire waking state is dependent on the awareness principle. The pure awareness can exist by itself, without the world. This is all teaching from the Upanishads. Now, how does this happen? Technically, we explain it in 4 terms, which is called as Adhishtanam, Satyam, Asangatvam, and Advitiyam. So in this way, if we understand these 4 technical terms, we will be able to reach the pure awareness principle in our own core personality as an understanding, intellectual understanding. So Darpana Nagari is one example which we will analyze first. Then we will take up the second, which is the dream example, Swapna Nagari. One thing, so what we have to understand is it is mithya. Nagari, the experience of the reflected city, is a mithya experience. Mithya means it appears, we can experience it, but it is not real. What is real is the awareness principle, which continuously is there within time and without time. Time is also an object of experience for the awareness. Time and space is an object for the awareness principle. So you can see how deep is our consciousness. The entire world is rising and setting in this pure awareness consciousness. The first technical term is called as Adhishtanam. Adhishtanam means it is the substratum. Like the waker is the substratum for the dreamer, similarly, Sat Chit Atma, I will use this term Sat Chit Atma for the consciousness or awareness principle throughout this Dakshinamurthy Stotram. It is the same which we use in the Upanishads under the title Brahman. In Bhagavad Gita, we say generally Paramatma. But all these 3 names are pertaining to one real entity, which is the ultimate core of this entire cosmos. We are studying that principle, that God. We can even say that God exists in that form. When we understand these verses, we will understand the Jiva, Jagat, and Ishvara. The substratum for all 3 is this awareness consciousness principle, which is called as Adhishtanam. The second technical term is Satyam. Satyam means it exists in all the 3 periods of time: past, present, and future. Which means what? It is ever existing. There is nothing which is non-existent in Vedanta. Awareness is always Sat, always existent. That is what is called as Satyam. What about the world? The world is Mithya. Mithya means appearance. It appears and disappears. It manifests and manifests. And Satyam also means it can exist independently. That means the waker exists independently compared to the dreamer. Similarly, Atma exists independently when compared to the waker. We use the dream experience to understand how we can transcend the waker. Asangatva means that waker is not at all related to the dreamer. The waker is of a higher order of reality. Atma is of a higher order of reality compared to the waker. The fourth technical point is Advitiyam. Advitiyam means non-dual nature. Non-dual means there are no two consciousness. There is only one consciousness which exists. Everything else is mithya. Mithya means it appears and disappears. The relationship between that Atma and the waker is the relationship between a substratum and the superimposed. Like the waker is the substratum for the dream world and the dreamer, Atma is the substratum for the waker and the waking world. So these four factors, I can explain the entire universe with these four factors and expanding and contracting from these four technical terms. This is the beauty of Vedanta. It can expand, it can contract, so that our mind gets the flexibility to understand the core nature very clearly, like an apple in our hand. Like how I see an orange in my hand, I can know my real nature at any point of time because it happens to be me, myself. Initially, for newcomers, these four terms may sound very, very superficial. But as we study the different texts in different formats, in different ways, the same four can be better understood. Keep listening to the Vedic scriptures, different texts. One day, all these four terms will make the realization for each one of us. Mirror is the supporter. Adhishthanam. Nagari means the reflection, and that is called as supported. So the relationship between the reflection and the mirror is the relationship between Adhishthanam and Adheyam or Adhyastam. The supported reflection is called as Adhyastam, superimposed. So the city is seen in a mirror, but the mirror has got independent existence. The reflection comes and goes. The reflection does not have an existence of its own, even though I experience it in a mirror. The reflected street, the reflected beings, both do not have independent existence. Similarly, when we understand that pure awareness, consciousness principle, which is our real nature, all the events, experiences which we have in our daily life They come and go, come and go. None of the experiences can affect me. That's what Lord Krishna says in the second chapter. Right from 15th verse, from the 12th verse of the Bhagavad Gita, if you remember, what Lord Krishna is teaching about pure awareness, consciousness principle is the same teaching Shankaracharya is teaching us here. You must be able to connect the different texts and see how each text presents in different verses, but they all talk about the same entity, which is Atma. The mirror is asangaha. It's asanga means it is not related to the city, the reflection. It is a substratum. It is not related. That is why it is called as relationless. It is a relationless relationship. That is the relation between an adhishtanam and adhyastam. The same relationship. It is not a cause-effect relationship. It is a substratum and a superimposed relationship. These are two different types of relationship. In the world, there is, when you are a part of the world, you will have cause-effect relationship. Everything in the world, in samana satta, that means in the same order of reality, you will have a cause-effect relationship. Father, son, mother, daughter, cause-effect. Seed, tree, cause-effect. Dreamer, waker, substratum, superimposed. Two orders of reality. So we must understand these two orders of reality very clearly in order to understand Atma and the waker. Like we have the dreamer and the waker, we have Atma and the waker. Two orders of reality, therefore we say asangaha. Can the dream exist without the waker? No. Similarly, can the waker exist without the Atma? No. This is how we have to understand Vedanta. This is how we have to understand the pure consciousness principle. So the pure consciousness principle is never related to the events of the world. Whatever may happen, but they are all happening because of that pure awareness. At the same time, it is transcendental. It is beyond the world. Achedyoyam. Nothing happens to the consciousness when things happen in the world. Consciousness cannot be cut. It cannot have an end. Achedyoyam, if you remember the Gita verse, these are all explained there very beautifully. Akledyoyam, it cannot be moistened. That means none of the five elements can affect the awareness consciousness principle. Asosyoyam means it cannot be dried up. That means consciousness, the spiritual nature, is unaffected by anything in creation. Creation is basically five elements, and the five elements are interacting throughout the waking state, dream state, and in the sleep state. They're just interacting. This is what is called as Prakriti. This is what is called in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 13th chapter, Lord Krishna teaches Kshetram and Kshetrajnaha. Kshetrajnaha is the awareness principle, and these are the description of that same Kshetrajnaha. Nainam chidyanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledayantyapaha, na shoshati marutaha. This is exactly what is the teaching of this mirror and this reflection, how we have to understand that with reference to consciousness and our experiences. This is how we try to understand the verse, the first verse itself. They are very, very deep verses, and these are the depth in which we should understand. If you just read the verse and understand the meaning, or just a superfluous meaning, you won't go to the depth. But this is the way to dive into the verse, deep inside, so that that pure awareness gets revealed to us very distinctly. And I can own it up. You see, unless and until we are able to see in our own mind this pure awareness principle, we will never be satisfied or fulfilled in spiritual study. And the moment we get this glimpse of this pure consciousness, awareness in our own core personality, then that happiness or the peace which we can get, you cannot express it. There are no words to express it. That fulfillment. It is the joy, the bliss which you can experience it, which is what all the rishis have experienced when they have dived deep into these verses. Advitiya means not countable. This entire world cannot be counted as number two when you are comparing the consciousness, the awareness. Why? Because this entire conscious world is appearing and disappearing in the awareness principle. Like we don't order a second cup of tea for a reflected person, a friend whom we see in the mirror. We see a second person, but he may be sitting in a distant table. But we don't order for him because we say, well, that's a reflection. It's a reflection. So similarly, whatever happens in the world, the lesson here is it's not going to affect me if I know the reality of pure awareness. Nothing. Neither birth, neither death, neither anything happening as an event in the world, unless and until it reaches my mind. And if it reaches my mind, and if I see it as an object of awareness, it will not affect me. That is the teaching. Mirror alone exists without a second city. That's what, without a reflection, the mirror can exist. Similarly, pure consciousness can exist without the world, without the body, without the mind. This is something which we have to internalize. I may say it, you may hear it, but this fact has to be internalized in the mind, that I can exist as pure awareness principle, as pure consciousness, without my body, without my mind. Why do we say this? In the state of ignorance, in the state of sushupti, in the state of sleep, we have no experience of the body also. We have no experience of the world also. It is consciousness which is the witness of the absence of the world in sleep. It is the consciousness which is the witness of the presence of the world in waking state. The presence and absence of the world does not affect consciousness. Consciousness is always illumining. Chit principle is what we should understand. Sada bhati, sada sat. It's always existent. What is existent is always conscious. It is consciousness. So I am that pure consciousness, which is the witness of the absence of the world and also the presence of the world. What is the sambandha? I have explained already, substratum and superimposed. That substratum is called as satyam, superimposed is called as mithya. Many people don't understand these two words, satyam and mithya. The original face is satyam, the reflected face in the mirror is mithya. Mithya appears. And if I remove the mirror, which is the mind, if I remove it in sleep, the appearance goes away. But I, the original consciousness, the pure awareness, continue. If I have this knowledge, if I have internalized this knowledge, I am free right now while listening to this talk. Realization happens during Shravanam. We only remember what we have learned during Shravanam in our Nididhyasanam. Nididhyasanam is only a recollection of what I have learned during Shravanam. I recollect again. I am that pure awareness principle, which is the illuminator of the presence of the world in waking and the absence of the world in sleep. I am the illuminating principle. I am that consciousness principle. Sad Chit Atma. Swapna Nagari is a dream world. And where is it appearing? In our mind. So the mind is this substratum for the entire dream world, which all of us will agree, because we all experience it as soon as we in the dream state. While we are dreaming, we don't accept it. When we have woken up from dream, when we are a waker, we totally accept, because that ignorance, avidya of the waker, is no longer there. Similarly, when avidya of Atma is not there, I will accept that the waking world and the waking experiences are mithya, false, when compared to the ever-existent Sat Chit Atma. Adhishtanam, now we are analyzing the Swapna Nagari, the dream example. Again, we are looking at the four factors. Adhishtanam means what? I am the waker, I am the support for the entire dream world. This teaching here is the teaching of Mandukya Upanishad. What I'll be teaching in Mandukya Upanishad is the same as what we are learning here in this verse, number 1. So the waker is the supporter for the dream time, dream space. Atma is the supporter for the waking time and waking space. The waking time and waking space goes into unmanifest condition in Atma. Moment I withdraw the support, I, the waker, withdraw the support, I get up from the sleep of ignorance about the waker, the dream world falls like the coalition government in different countries. That means lending, who is the lender of the support for the dream? It is the waker. Who is the lender for the support uh, of the waking? It is the pure awareness, that consciousness principle. We should always try to understand with reference to consciousness and the waker. That is the ultimate teaching. We are using the mirror example, we are using the dream example so that we can understand the relationship between pure consciousness and the waker. I, the waker. All of us are wakers. We are waker, and we are trying to understand our real nature. So the waker lends existence to the Swapna Nagari. The dream world borrows that existence of the waker. The waker exists without the dream world. The dream world can't exist without the waker. See how we are comparing? These are how uh, the different two states. It's just we are trying to understand our own experience, but then we are understanding it with reference to the technicalities of the Vedanta. Asangatvam, whatever happens in the dream world, like we travel to USA, we travel to India, we travel around the world, it does not affect the sleeping waker. Similarly, wherever we may go in the waking state, it does not affect Atma. Advayatam, the dream world, people, the money which we earn, the dream hunger, the dream thirst, all this can't be counted together with the waker. Similarly, I, the waker, we can say with reference to the waker, I am the non-dual waker with reference to the dream. And how we can say with reference to the waking world can't be counted along with Atma because it is just supported by the pure consciousness. It does not exist as a second entity. It goes and it is a superimposition on that pure consciousness. So this is what I'm going to explain now in the form of slide. Atma and the waking world. When I do this comparison, the waker is like this, is like that mirror. Waking world, like reflection or a dream world, does not exist separately. Atma, the pure consciousness, is Satyam. The body, mind world is Mithya. Like the Swapna Nagari or like the city in a mirror. The four principles we have applied. This is just a revision. It just says, I, the consciousness, am the observer Atma. And what is the world? It is the substratum. It is the superimposed. No part of the Jagarat world exists outside this consciousness. So is there anything else outside this awareness principle? Nothing. That is why. And what about the time space which we experience in the waking world? It is an object of consciousness. The entire time. You see, many a times we don't understand what is this time? What is this time? For purpose of interactions, for purpose, we divide the time into 24 hours. But actually speaking, intrinsically, what is this time principle? Time is only an object of that pure awareness principle. So from the awareness principle, if you study this entire universe, it is just you can't even say it exists. You can't say it doesn't exist. That is what is called as mithya. Like, for example, with reference to the waker and the dream time, the dream space, the dream objects, how can I describe that? The only way the scriptures tell us is, the description is, what is it? Anirvachaniyam. No words can describe. All what we experience in our dream yesterday, if I have to explain it to my friend, I can say in words, I won a lottery ticket in my dream, and then I went there, I did that, and then your friend will ask, okay, where is that money? Can I use it here in the waking? I can't. So similarly, if you're a super waker Atma, whatever happens in the waking world is the same as what has happened to you in the dream with reference to the waker. That is why Kaivalya Upanishad, this very beautiful and a very profound verse, Mayeva Sakalam Jatam, May Sarvam Pratishtitam, May Sarvam Layam Yati, Tad Brahma Vayam Aham. I am that pure awareness in which that world comes, it rests, it disappears. This verse, number 19 of Kaivalya Upanishad, is the essence of verse number 1 of Dakshinamurthy. So when I teach Kaivalya Upanishad, I will say Dakshinamurthy is a reference. When I'm teaching Dakshinamurthy, I'm saying Kaivalya is a reference because it's the same. The verse number 1 to 5 are very often quoted by Shankaracharya in all his bhashyams, commentaries on the Upanishad. All. He quotes left and right. So that's why Dakshinamurthy Stotram is very, very popular. Again, some more analysis. Satyam, Chaitanyam is called as Satyam. It is always existent. Whereas the Jagrat is Mithya. Satyam lends consciousness, existence to the world. The world, when I say the world, means what? It includes my body, my mind, my relationships in the world. Everything is included in this Anatma world. That is what is called as Anatma in Vivek Chodamani. Everything. That is called as Kshetram in Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter. That is called as Prakriti in the same 13th chapter. Everything, all the 5 elements and the 5. What is the world actually? The world is 5 elements and the products of 5 elements. If you want to just to say what is the world in 2 words, it is only it, or just say it is Pancha Mahabhuta. That's all. And what else is there in the world? Purusha or Chaitanya or Atma. So Purusha and Prakriti is the entire Jagat. We can't talk of the existence of anything you are not conscious of. Suppose I'm not conscious of some country, we cannot say it exists for me. You see? Existence, this will be explained in the 3rd verse of in the 4th verse of the Dakshinamurthy Stotram, how this particular sentence you can understand when we do the 4th verse. So existence of the world is borrowed from that pure consciousness. At this point of time, you must do in your own mind Atma Anatma Viveka, the discrimination between pure consciousness and the world. That is how you should analyze these 4 points: Asangatvam, Advitiyam, and so on. This point of asangatvam is very, very important for moksha. If I want to know how do I get rid of sorrow in life, this technical point of asangaha must be ingrained in us. Through the scriptures, we know that I am the pure awareness. It is asangaha. That is the nature of Sat Chit principle. That is the nature of Ishvara. That is the nature of all the jivas. But we don't know. That is what is called as ignorance. That is what is called as Mula Avidya. In waking state, we are all suffering from this ignorance about our real nature. The moment I come to know that there is no actual relationship between that pure awareness and the body or the mind, then moksha is here and now. Sadhyo Mukti, Jivan Mukti is right now here. We don't have to wait for death to happen. You can claim I am free right now if you understand the nature of consciousness. I am unaffected by any event of Jagrat Prapancha. This is the teaching which was received by Narada in Chandogya Upanishad from Sanat Kumara. Sanat Kumara is one of the students who received this direct knowledge from Lord Shiva, who is in the form of Dakshinamurthy. It is that pure Atma which is that teacher for us, that is teaching us the first verse. It is as if God is sitting in front of you and teaching you, this is the way you are. This is how you are free right now. Liberation depends on the assimilation of this asangatvam. It must be deeply understood and taken as our real nature. Tattvavittu mahabhavo guna karma vibhagayoho guna guneshu vartante iti matvana sanjate. Very beautiful verse of the Bhagavad Gita, the 3rd chapter. It says that the gunas, that means the 3 gunas, Prakriti's 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, are interacting with the objects which are also having the 3 gunas. The body and mind has the 3 gunas. They are interacting with the objects in the world in the form of 3 gunas. This interaction is happening at a lower level, which is called as Vyavaharikam. Atma is the pure awareness consciousness principle. At a higher plane, it is called as Paramarthikam. Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyeta tattvavit pashyan shrinvan sprishan jigran ashnan gachan sopan pralapan visujan unmishan nimishan napi indriyani indriyartheshu vartante iti dharayan. Very beautiful 2 verses of the Bhagavad Gita teaching us the asangatvam of Atma. When the Lord says, I do nothing in this world, this is what he means. I am that pure awareness consciousness principle, and I do nothing. Srishti, Sthiti, Laya is just happening because of my power. So similarly, seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, these are all at the Prakriti level. Sleeping, going, walking, running, all this is happening at Prakriti level. But we are at the higher level, like the waker and the dreamer. Atma is at a higher level, I claim that pure awareness as my real nature. So from Atma Drishti, waking world is another dream. This is the conclusion of Mandukya Upanishad, the 32nd Karika verse of chapter 2. Very famous verse of Gaudapadacharya. Na nirodho na chotpatir na buddha na baddho na cha sadakaha na mumukshur na vaimukta itesha paramarthatha. He says that there was never anybody in bondage and there is never anybody who gets liberated, because liberation is our nature. Our nature is Atma. That is what Mandukya Upanishad is teaching us. It is the same teaching which Dakshinamurthy is teaching us here in the first verse. You be like that mirror. Let anything happen in the world. You are not affected by it. In this way, I can get rid of all my sorrows in life because of the teaching of the scriptures. My freedom is a fact now. It is not a future event. It is not Kramamukti, where in the chapter 8 of the Bhagavad Gita, they say that you have to meditate on the God and so on and so forth, and then you get realized, you get the same teaching what you're learning here, you get in Brahmaloka, and then you become free. But here the teaching is Advaita Jnanam, you are free here and now. If you know the true nature of yourself as that pure Atma, pure awareness, consciousness principle, pure existence, pure consciousness. Sat is Chit, Chit is Sat. This is a common term used by Shankaracharya throughout this Dakshinamurthy Stotram. In the teaching, he says Sat is Chit, Chit is Sat. Moksha has no start date, it has no end date. Why? Because moksha exists in timeless. Time is an object of awareness. That is how we say, I am free, ever free. Never affected by anything in creation. Not affected by time. Body mind is never free. Atma is ever free. Body mind is affected by time. Prarabdha is all for the body and mind. And prarabdha is for the mithya I. Mithya I is the ego, the ahamkara, which is undergoing or experiencing the world in ignorance. Advayatvam, how do I understand Advayatvam with reference to consciousness and the world? World does not have an independent existence. It is as good as non-existence. It can't be counted as second. We can never say it's Atma and the world. That is why we say it is I am non-dual Advayam. So the four features of Adhishtanam, Asangatvam, Advayatvam, and these factors we can easily understand from the from the two examples which are given, the mirror example and the dream example. The second part of the verse number 1 is of the dream topic. That is, what happens in a dream. Now we are studying a little bit more deeper, the same example. Now, Nidra is a Shakti, is a is a is a power in us, and this power makes the dream possible, and it makes the dream possible inside us only. But how does it happen? It happens as though it is outside me. This is how the dream happens, because of the Nidra Shakti. We all have the power of sleep, all of us. And this definition of sleep in Vedanta, normally definition, we all go to sleep because we are tired. The body is tired, it goes to sleep. That is our normal explanation of what is sleep. I fell asleep because I was tired. But Vedanta doesn't see sleep as in this way. What Vedanta says is the ignorance of the waker is sleep. Not being aware that I am the waker is sleep. So what happens is, when I'm not aware that I am the waker, the vasanas get activated. And when the vasanas are activated, when I have the ignorance that I am the waker is the adhishtanam, dream appears as though real outside me. It's a false dream, but it appears real. See, we are trying to understand how a dream happens. The dream happens because I am not aware I am the waker. Suppose I am aware that I am the waker, what happens? Then I will not be dreaming. This is what happens to us even in waking. I will come to that in the second point. So at this point, what we have to understand is ignorance of the waker causes the dream, and it appears as though outside. At the same time, it is a false dream. Prabodha samaye, I become aware of the waker status. I become aware that I am the adhishtanam. I get that knowledge. I am the adhishtanam. And outside dream then becomes no more outside, it becomes falsified. So this is the complete analysis of a dream. During dream, I have the ignorance, I am the waker. When I wake up, I get the knowledge that I am the waker. When the knowledge happens, the dream world and the dream experience goes away. The dream is falsified. What Shankaracharya tells us is the same thing happens when we have the spiritual knowledge. What happens when we have the spiritual knowledge? The waking world and the waker gets falsified. Atma is the adhishtanam, and the ajnanam, the ignorance of Atma, is the nidra number 2, the sleep number 2. This sleep number 2 is called as Maya. This is called as the philosophical sleep. This is called as Mula Avidya. This ignorance has been with us for several janmas. I have never known my real nature. When I am under the influence of this Maya Shakti, Maya sleep happens. This world of waking, which is really within Atma, appears as though outside, during waking up from Lord Dakshinamurthy, what happens is I understand that I am that pure consciousness, and this waker gets falsified in avidya nidra, mula avidya nidra. This is how we have to understand and wake up to our real nature. Waking up to our real nature is the final moksha. Uttishtata jagrata prapya varan nibodata shurasya dhara nishita duratyaya durgam patas tat kavayo vadanti. This path, spiritual path, is a very, very sharp edged path. Kathopanishad, Lord Yama is teaching to Nachiketa. The same teaching is given by Shankaracharya in the first verse. This spiritual path, Maya Shakti, is very, very difficult to cross over. If you know how to cross over this Maya Shakti, it is a minute. In 1 minute, you have realized yourself. I am that pure consciousness. That's all. This entire Jagat is exactly like the dream world. I have dream world number 1, I have dream world number 2, only when I have woken up to my real state of pure consciousness. The Suprabhadam is to wake you up from this long sleep which we have had for janmas together. This is how the scriptures describe this Mula Vidya. This is not ignorance about any object in the world. It is the ignorance of the subject me. The pure me. I don't know my nature. Now I know my nature as that pure Atma, the pure Sat principle, the pure consciousness principle, which has got the 4 features which we have now discussed. These 4 features is very well ingrained in my mind. I know my nature because of these 4 features. Very beautifully taught by Shankaracharya in the first verse. The moment I wake up to this Atma, I become a Jnani, I become the same Buddha. Whatever he realized, I can realize the same. Whatever is what Shankaracharya realized, I can realize the same and also be free. This is the teaching of Bhagavad Gita. This is the teaching of Upanishads. You become an awakened person with reference to the waking world. And then you can say, I am the support, adharam of this entire waking world as pure awareness. I am not affected by anything which happens in this world, waking world. I am that pure non-dual consciousness principle, and the world is only appearing as though outside, but it is really nijantargatam. It is inside me. This one word you must remember, very, very beautiful word, Nij Antargatam. I will explain this when we come to the second verse. This is, Atma is not anywhere outside, but the world is inside Atma. Such an awakened person is Gurumurti Dakshinamurthy, is my Guru. The entire verse is grammatically one sentence. It is one sentence. Grammatically, it's a very beautiful verse which describes the Adhishthanam, Satyam, Asangatvam, Advayatvam of the world with reference to Atma. These 4 features, aspects of Atma. Atma is the support of the universe. Atma can exist independently. It has independent existence. Atma is asangaha. It is not affected by anything in the world, any event in the world. It is alone exists. It alone exists. Very important, which is coming from the scriptures, from the Upanishads. If you remember the Upanishads, all these 4 terms are very easy for you to remember. This is the essence of the 10 or 12 Upanishads which we have studied before. For those who have or listening to me for the last 6 years, these 6-7 years, these 4 terms are the essence of all spiritual study to claim that pure consciousness as my real nature. Vishwan Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam Asti. This Jagrat Prapancha, Vishwam, is compared to a reflected city. I'm giving you the actual description of the words of the first verse. Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam, equal to, Tulyam means equal to, is comparable to the reflected city in a huge mirror. Drishyamana, Drishyamana means experience in a huge mirror. Nijantargatam, Jagrat Vishwam Nijantargatvam Swapna Eva. Nijantargatam means it is not somewhere I have to go somewhere else and all that. It is in me. It's when I study my own nature, I learn to go beyond my mind. I am one with Atma. It is Antargatam. It is really existing within me only. When I know Atma, then I can say the world exists in my mind. Object is the dream world for the waker. Object is the waking world for the super waker or the Atma, the pure awareness. Waker is the dream world is an object. It is subjective mithya. Subjective mithya means it is appearance for me only, not for my father or my brother or my sister. It is subjective. It is for me only. It is mithya because I am dreaming it. It is called as Jiva Shrishti. Atma, when compared to the waking world is Ishvara Srishti. It is an objective mithya. You must remember these 2 words, subjective mithya, objective mithya. Subjective mithya is the Nidra Shakti. Because of the Nidra Shakti which I have, the dream world is an subjective mithya, subjective appearance. Because of the Maya Shakti which I as Atma have, this entire waking world is Ishvara Srishti. It is available for public view. That means it is available for the entire cosmos. All the beings, it is available. The mountains, the rivers, the 5 elements is available for it. That is why it is called as Ishvara Srishti. Nijantargatam, both worlds, the waking world and the dream world, are inside the subject Atma. The final ultimate reality is pure consciousness. That reality is explained in the 3rd verse very beautifully. Asi. In the 3rd and the 4th verse, you will understand that reality is very beautifully. Jagrat Vishwam Atmani Pashyati. The entire waking world is seen in Atma. Nijantargatam Swapna Vishwam Nidreya Bahirhi Udbhutam Eva Asti. Dream world appears as though outside because of sleep. It is a function of sleep. It is a product of the Shakti. The dream is a product, it's an effect. And the cause is the Shakti, the Nidra Shakti. Tatha Nijantargatam Jagat Vishwam Mayaya Bahirihi Udbhutam Eva Bhavati. This entire waking prapancha is really within me, the Atma, because of my Maya Shakti. Maya Nidra appears outside. So there is an ignorance of the Atma which makes this entire Jagat real for me. When this ignorance of Atma goes away, the reality of this waking world ceases for me, means I, the Jiva, have woken up to that higher principle, which is Atma. It's the same verse I have repeated here. In me alone, everything is born. Here we must understand the word me. Here the word me means that pure consciousness, that pure Satchit principle. In me alone it exists, in me alone it resolves. Like a waker will say, in me alone the dream rose, the dream existed, the dream resolved. From Atma point of view, when I have woken up to that Atma status of mind, the waker status is resolved. That is what the meaning of this particular verse, Mayeva Sakalam Jatam, is. The more you understand the first verse of Dakshinamurthy, the more deeper we understand this Kaivalya Upanishad mantra. Yaha Supta Purusha Prabodha Samaye. When sleeping person wakes up, what is his experience? The outside dream world is resolved into myself, the waker. Effortlessly. There is no effort involved. When the waker gets up in the morning, he says, well, the dream just came and went. Similarly, the same thing happens when we realize our Atma, our core nature. The entire waking world and events and whatever happened, all A, B, C, D. I had so much of money in this world. I had so much of joy in the world. I had so much of all the good and the bad, both get resolved. Like the both good and the bad of the dream gets resolved in the waker, the good and the bad of the waker gets resolved in Atma when we wake up to our real nature. Advayam Atmanam Sakshat Kurute. On waking, a person recognizes Sakshat directly, himself as a secondless one without any dream object. Similarly, Prapancha Upashamam Shantam Shivam Advayam Sakshat Kurute. If you have done the Mandukya Upanishad, you can remember this verse, this particular line. The description of Atma is Shantam. Shantam means absolute peace, never-ending peace. Shivam, auspicious. Sakshat Kurute, Prabodha Samaye. When I am woken up to this pure nature of mine, Prapancha Upashamam, this entire Jagrat is resolved. In self-knowledge, I don't experience Atma, I don't see Atma, I don't become Atma, but I claim I am Atma. Very important statement. In meditation, many of us are lost because we want to see that pure Atma, pure consciousness. I want to see God. I want to see that form of the God. No, ultimately, this is what you have to realize. This is the ultimate truth. I am that pure consciousness. Aham Atma. I am that Gudakeshaha. That is what Lord Krishna taught in the 20th verse of the 10th chapter. Aham Atma Gudakeshaha. The first vibhuti of the Lord is Aham. He says, I am that Aham, I, and everybody. If you say I, it means that consciousness. But you don't know, I don't know. Therefore, Dakshinamurthy teaches us, Lord Dakshinamurthy teaches us in the very first verse, our nature. Realization process is called as Sakshatkara. Directly teaching my nature. To that Jnani Guru who knows I am the Adhishtanam of this entire Jagat, to that Lord Dakshinamurti, whose nature is Satchit Atma, to that Guru is my Namaskara, is what Shankaracharya beautifully says in the first verse. So every Guru is a manifestation of the same Dakshinamurti, because ultimately our nature is getting revealed by the scriptures. So the essence of the first verse is Atmanaha Adhisthanaha Satyaha Asangaha Advayaha Swapnataha. Like this dream, Atma is the Adhishthanam, it is the Satyam, it is Asangaha, it is Advayaha. So these four technical terms I have used to describe the first verse. The first verse is a description of the Jiva with reference to the pure consciousness. I apply these four technical terms in my own mind, analyze my consciousness as my real nature using these four words. If you are not clear of these four words, you can call me, you can write to me, you can send me, I can try and explain to you directly the same four words. But if you understand these four words, moksha is here and now. Jivan Mukti is here and now. So two examples, the city in a mirror and the dream, explain to us our real nature of pure Sat Chit Atma. Next week, we will do the second verse of Dakshinamurti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnahat Purnamudachade Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyade. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So if you have any questions, you can ask me. Shanmugam, can you unmute everybody?
Namaste, sir.
Yeah, Lakshmi, tell me.
Lakshmi.
Yeah.
Sir, so in this first paragraph, no?
Yes.
What I understood is like our waking state is a dream of Brahman. Is it correct, sir?
It is not.
Is it like our waking state, no? Like
it is not a dream of Brahman. It is a dream of Jiva only. The Brahman is
Nija Andargadam. Nija Andargadam, you explain, no? So is it?
It is Nijantargatam, means ultimately you have to drop the Jiva and then own a Brahman which is Asangaha.
Okay.
I see.
So is it not that dream of Brahman?
No, it is not a dream of Brahman. It is Jiva is dreaming.
Okay.
It is not a dream of Brahman. It is Brahman is unrelated. You see, Asanga means there is nothing with reference inside Brahman. There is, you see, the Brahman's definition, you should be very, very clear. Brahman is something in which there is no world.
Okay.
Absolutely no world. No Jiva, no Jagat, no Ishvara in Brahman. Brahman is pure consciousness. When I know that pure consciousness, I know I am also eternal, like that nature of Brahman. So in Brahman, there is no world. or this world and dream and waking, all this, you take it up to the level of a jiva understanding only.
Okay.
Nijantargatam with reference to the jiva.
Okay, sir.
When the jivatvam is dropped, then you realize Brahman. When I know I am not the jiva,
Okay, sir. Okay.
I realize I am that pure consciousness. I have to drop the jiva bhava. Don't start imagining that Brahman is dreaming the waking world and all. You'll go in circles. You will completely get lost. Okay?
No, sir. Actually, I thought you were explaining about the dream. No,
Nijantargatam must stop with the jiva. As far
Okay,
as
sir.
the jiva
Okay.
is concerned, it is nij antargatam. Atma is inside me, the jiva.
Okay.
That is how you understand. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So Atma, see, basically you must remember one thing, that this actually, this teaching comes from the Upanishads only, that in Brahman, in that pure consciousness, there is nothing. It is pure. That is, when we say pure, means what? It is without the world. It has got 3 types of differences are not there in Brahman. Sajatiya Bheda, Vijatiya Bheda, Swagata Bheda. There is no
Now you understood.
Abheda Swarupa. So if Brahman is Abheda Swarupa, then where is the world? For world, you need Dvaitam. Advaitam means no difference. And no difference means these 3 differences are not there. Okay, anyway, slowly you will understand that your questions will get resolved as we get more knowledge of that pure consciousness.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Shama, tell me.
Thank you, sir.
Namaste.
Yeah, namaste. Yeah.
So I love your idea of how Vedanta allows expansion and contraction, and
Yes.
to say through a continuous process, and then you finally come to the idea. So each thought has to be first dilated,
Yes.
broken into million pieces,
Yes.
and then be brought all together to see the reality. Is that right?
Absolutely right.
Okay.
This is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10 and chapter 11, which I'm teaching on this Saturday.
All right.
Expansion, vibhutis.
Yeah.
Contraction, seeing the whole universe in Lord Krishna, is the contraction.
Or in other words, it's plurality and then
Yes.
singularity.
Plurality is the vibhuti.
Yeah. So
Singularity is the chapter 11.
if
Arjuna says, show me this entire world in you. This entire world of waking world is in consciousness, is chapter 11.
So
Chapter 10 is the entire waking world is coming out of that consciousness, is chapter 10 of the Bhagavad Gita.
yeah. So if there was a kind of little model, visual, so the spiritual center sits right in the center of it.
Exactly.
And it actually illumines all of our panchakoshas and everything.
Yes.
And the outside world, outside our panchakoshas.
Yes.
So everything is illumined if we are awake. If we
Yes.
are awake. Yeah.
Yes.
So now the question which I have is,
This particular point which you have said
yes.
is the essence of verse number 4 of the Dakshinamurthy.
Wow. So the question here is, I still, and the second point is, so am I right in understanding that the world which I'm seeing even now, like I'm listening to your talk and seeing you in a virtual sense, so that which I am perceiving now, or the world in my waking state, this is a dream. This is a dream in my mind.
Yes, yes.
So is a dream number 2.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Correct.
It's the same as the dream number 1.
Your own mind. It is not in
Yeah.
Brahman's mind.
Yeah. So it's in my mind, it's dream number 2.
Yes.
So in that, this dream is equal to Tulyam. I was just trying to do
Yes.
the
Tulyam.
equation.
Exactly like the Nidra number 1, sleep number
Yeah.
1. Tulyam means exactly like
So
the,
it's an equal.
yes.
It's an equal. Yeah. Thank you. Now, the only thing which I am really not very clear is when you say Satyam, yeah, which is the real, in the meaning of the word Satyam, which is the Satyam Jnanam Anantam, so it actually has taken care of everything. It's beyond time, it's beyond space, it's limitless, it doesn't have any boundaries, nothing at all. So then why do you have to go through this Asangatvam and Advitiyam? Because it just really all is encompassed in one word, isn't it?
Yes. If
Satyam.
you understand Satyam by itself, you don't need the other 3 words.
Yeah, I'm guessing that the other 3 words are probably important for the kind of systematically analyzing, because when you say asangatvam, you're telling in your mind an instruction to say disconnect. Because if you are attaching yourself, because the mind has a tendency to attach, isn't
Yes.
it?
Yes.
So therefore, it's an instruction, disconnect, asangatvam, yeah? Also then it helps you to get unaffected, because the mind also has a tendency to get attached,
That's correct.
including my own ideas.
Yes.
You know, it's so obsessive it can be, and it keeps you rooted into not letting you see another. Say you're trying to teach me, but if I'm too attached to my own idea, I don't listen to you. Can you see
That is
that?
the ego eye. Your
Yeah.
ego eyes is so strong that you don't allow any other idea to flow into you, and then
So therefore there's sangatvam. Is
yes,
that correct?
yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
So
Yes.
so that's the only meaning I was thinking. And then finally the Advitiyam. I mean, I'm just can't be sure why that is an issue there. Advitiyam.
Advitiya means non-dual. Like the waker, with a reference to the world, is non-dual. There is no separate dream world compared to the waker. That is the independent existence. There is no 2 wakers for the dream.
Yeah.
There is waker is non-dual. That means it's only one for that particular dream. Non-dual means consciousness. There are no 2 consciousness in the universe. There is only one consciousness. The chapter 13 of the Gita, the 3rd verse, it says that in all the bodies, the Lord says, I am the consciousness. That is what is called as non-dual nature. Then only this whole universe can be merged into one principle, which is that Satchidatma.
Yeah. So although
It's a very
even this.
important point to understand this principle, because Sankhya believes that each Atma is different.
Yes.
And Shankaracharya says you will get into a quagmire of cause effect if you have plurality of Atma.
Mm.
Scriptures clearly say Atma is one.
Mm.
If you want to become free from the body and mind, please accept Atma is only one.
And therefore that the world, although we know, like when I die, the jiva dies,
Yes.
the world still exists. So in that way, the world is not a mithya, because the world will exist.
But for whom is the question?
Yeah, for whom? So
Yeah,
for
the,
that Atma,
yeah,
it is.
If you are attached to the body, if you
Yeah.
were attached to the body, you are asking the question, you are saying that the world exists for others because others are different from the body. You are saying this word, this sentence, you are saying with reference to the body. You are not saying with reference to Atma, because even now, in Atma only, others are there.
Yeah. So therefore, Advitiyam is very important. Therefore,
Yes.
Advitiyam is very important.
Yes.
That even although this body will die, but because everything is one Atman, it actually continues.
It continues.
It's forever existing.
That's right. Nityaha,
Okay.
eternal.
Okay, thank you. That resolves it in my mind, because I was thinking, why do you have to split it? Yeah. Thanks.
Very good. I'm seeing that depth in which you're also analyzing these verses.
You can't help it because you're forced to. Yes,
Yeah.
you can't help it. Yeah.
Yeah, Rao, you wanted to say something?
No. What I'm saying is, if we say world exists for others, I'm still with the body only.
Yes.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still in the Vyavaharika world only. Yeah.
Yes. Correct. The statement is being made with reference to the body and Vyavahara in this field of experience.
That is why if you're speaking about Vedanta to some complete new person, and you say, you know, all the world exists in me and I in the world, and you think,
It's a
oh,
joke.
well, what?
It's a complete joke. If you try to
Yeah.
explain Vedanta to somebody, to an English philosopher,
Yeah.
you know, without you know, Nijantargat, without these four terminologies, if you try to explain to Vedanta to anybody, they won't understand. That is the importance of these technical words. Through these technical words only you can understand the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads.
Mm.
Therefore, understanding these four terms is very, very important if your intellect has to appreciate the Atma, because your mind has to get dropped finally and just go beyond time and space. That is what is called as freedom.
Suddenly, I just remembered Arjuna actually. You know, he's called Gudakesha because he conquered sleep. There is some reference to it, isn't
Yes,
it?
Gudakesha means he has conquered this sleep of ignorance, the second sleep, Nidra
Is
Shakti
that
number 2.
Okay, I was thinking he's actually called
Yes,
and I thought that may be very interesting, you know, if you actually go further advanced in Vedanta, you find your sleep getting squashed, you know, because you don't need sleep. No,
Yeah,
it
even
doesn't mean
Chandra
that.
says she has conquered sleep because she didn't sleep yesterday night.
Wonderful.
No, this Gudakesha is sleep number 2. You have cleared that ignorance.
Okay, thank you.
Not yet enlightened. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
See now.
No, what I see, like in the first verse is itself, Viswam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nijantargatam. The simplest example is we cannot see our own face. What we see is always a reflection only. So that itself is the true example of the entire consciousness.
Yes, that's correct. I mean, we never see our face, original face.
Original.
You can see a reflected
Yeah.
face.
Always is a reflected face.
I do have a problem with some of these thought processes. It's a practical one, and I'll give an illustrations. One day I was getting ready very quickly and to go to work, and I was standing in front of my mirror just trying quickly, you know. So it is like the Ishvara's image, not my image, but the Ishvara's image in this, and saying, what do you think you're decorating, you know?
Yeah.
And I thought, come on, get away, you know, I don't know, I'm in a rush, I can't deal with this, you know.
Yeah.
So I had to really, you know, get the whole thing out.
Right.
It is really funny, you know. I was thinking this can get too stretched, you know, in your consciousness.
No possible. These are possible. See, that's why you must understand Vedanta very clearly. Then it becomes joyful.
Yes.
This entire knowledge, in order to take place, you must understand it clearly.
I love the idea what you say. It becomes joyful. I love that.
Yeah, because okay. Anybody else has a question? Anybody?
Shekhi, I have a question. Provided if mine's like not exactly from the text, but it's a generic question. If somebody else has another question, then
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Nobody has a question. All eyes on you.
When Atma is described as Satchit Ananda, those three they're called the nature of Atma, right? But that's used only for illustration purpose, isn't it?
No, they have a reality that is explained in the third verse. It will come of Dakshinamurthy Stotram. The reality is called as Sat and Chit.
Right.
Whenever you break down either yourself or the world, ultimately you will come to the Sat principle. Suppose you break down anything in the world, to take a flower, you take a laptop, you take a mobile, you take any object on the universe, and you keep on dissecting it and dissecting it and dissecting it, and then you will come to atoms and molecules, and energy is where science stops. Science stops at energy.
Right.
Vedanta goes two steps ahead of science. Vedanta says it's not energy, it is satyam, existence.
Right.
And it is consciousness. This is the final ultimate reality of the universe, which is the teaching of Taittiriya Upanishad, Satyam Jnanam Anantam. You take the Jiva, you take the Jagat, you take the Ishvara, and you keep on breaking them, breaking them, breaking them. Ultimately, you will say it exists.
Right.
And then it will you will also come to a conclusion, another important point, it doesn't exist. With reference to you. There is no elephant in my room is a statement you are making. I don't see an elephant in my room. I see my laptop. Now, both these statements are being made by you. What is not there also you know. What is there also you know. You can only say what is not there if that object is that non-existence, non-appearance is an object of something.
Relatively speaking.
Yes, relatively, you'll say, in my room, my friend is not there, or in a class, I went there, I didn't see my friend. So that existence and non-existence, appearance and non-appearance, both are witnessed or illumined by one principle, which is called as awareness. This is going to be taught in the 5th verse of Dakshinamurthy, where there is one philosopher who says that shunyam, everything in the world is shunyam. You know, when you reduce everything in the world, you will come to nothing. I will explain this better when we come to the 5th verse. But to answer your question is why Sat Chit? Is it also a description? But ultimately, Sat and Chit is a description of that reality with reference to the world only, with reference to the names which we know.
Right. Yeah, that was my question. So
yeah, you are right. You see, ultimately, the pure consciousness, there is no word which describes.
Right.
Consciousness, awareness, and Chaitanyam, is that all three
all
same?
The same? All the same.
Yeah.
They're all the same. You see, ultimately, the Upanishad says you drop even the Upanishads in order to realize Brahman. Because Upanishad is only the words, but entity is only one.
I wish we had a different translation in English. Instead of consciousness, we had a different translation because it's very confusing. When you say consciousness,
you can never translate the word Chaitanyam in English.
Yeah.
Really, so the chit aspect, the consciousness aspect is used to describe mostly sentient beings, right? Like how existence is used to describe everything, but the sentient beings, humans, animals, plants, anything with life in there, that's the chit aspect is used to illustrate those, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
In then with using these three, then in the sleep state, there's no world, there's no mind. There's only consciousness that's witnessing the blankness.
Yes, it is witnessing the non-appearance of the world. It is witnessing the unmanifest condition of the world or the potential condition of the world, which is called as Prakriti. Prakriti is being witnessed by consciousness.
Is the potential...
And that is why you don't say that there is, I am nothing, I'm not there in sleep. You say, I am there in sleep.
But Shekharji, we only know that in hindsight, right? Like when we wake
only
up.
when from waking state you will know. Similarly, when you have got up to that consciousness state, you will say this world, this particular world which I am seeing with reference to that, this world itself is not there.
Right. But in the sleep state, in that potential state, there is, the world is, it's both non-existent and not conscious, not sentient at the same time.
That is why it is called as ignorance. It is the power. It is a Shakti of, it is a Shakti which is there in us. It is telling me that there is nothing in the world. The world, it is that is why it's called as Maya. It cannot be described as either existent or non-existent. You see, that is why with reference to that sleep condition, we can never say whether this world is existent or non-existent. That is why it is called as appearance or mithya. The word mithya is coined only by Vedantin. Nyaya Shastra, science, other philosophers, Visishta Advaitam, Dvaitam, nobody accepts this Maya, this mithya. This word mithya is only coined by Advaitins to understand the Upanishads. They say mithya means appearance. Appearance.
And then they got a bad name for it.
Yeah, that's right. It's mithya means they say that, okay, the other philosophers will argue with us. They say that how come you enjoy the world, you're eating a rasgulla at home and say that the world doesn't exist.
True, very true.
What we say is it doesn't exist from a higher standpoint. We are talking, I am eating, I am enjoying the world. Of course, yes. But in this transactional world, Vyavaharika world, I am transacting in this world, I am working in this world, I am earning money in this world. Yes, they all make sense. Only with reference to the waking world. But there is another world for me. My real home is that pure consciousness, in which there is no, this world is not there. That is my real home. If I reach that home, it gives me the pure bliss. That is what is called as Shanta, Shivam, Advayam. All this will make sense only when you compare it to a different order of reality. For example, mirage water, you cannot use it to quench the thirst in the Vyavaharika world. Mirage water, you see in a desert, you're going in Dubai or in Saudi Arabia, you see a desert and you suddenly see water floating around. It is a mirage water, but that is pratibhasikam. It is in the mind level. In the Vyavaharika level, I can't use that water to drink. Similarly, the dream world is the dream boy. He was handsome, but I can't get married to him in this waking world. He doesn't exist. It's an appearance. So we always have to understand Sat and Chit, pure consciousness, pure existence, is a term which the Upanishad used to take my mind away from this world of time and space. Time is an object of consciousness. Very difficult to believe, but it is the fact. It is the truth. The moment you understand time is an object of consciousness, you have understood Vedanta 100%. You have already reached at a higher level.
Science has tried to explore time very much as well.
Yes, but
starting from Einstein.
Yes, but they have never reached the level of the rishis
Timelessness, yeah.
of timelessness, because they say timelessness is your own nature. You, the observer of time, you, the observer of consciousness, you, the observer of experiencer of time and space, is beyond time. You, the observer, you, the experiencer of the time and space, are beyond time. Only if you are beyond time, you can experience time. That is how the rishis, they explain time. Because witness consciousness, Sakshi, is the witness of time in waking state. It is the witness of timelessness in sleep. I, the Sakshi, am existing in my pure sleep state. And in I, as the Sakshi, the witness, am beyond time. That is why Atma is said to be beyond the world, beyond the time, beyond the space. That is why it is said as it is Asangatvam, Advitiyam. All these four terms you can use it.
May I ask you one follow-up?
Yeah, one more. Yeah, go ahead.
When you were explaining that the Maya state of the deep sleep, there is neither existence nor sentiency. Then is Maya non-existent, or is it called mithya?
Maya is also mithya. Another word for Maya is mithya. Another word for Maya, mithya, is also avidya. These are all talking about, it is also ignorance. It is also called a spiritual ignorance. All these are meaning the same thing. It is the same Shakti. There is a Shakti in us. And this is what is called as the Avarna Shakti and the Vikshepa Shakti. Maya has got two powers.
Veiling and projection.
Yeah. The veiling power is what we are saying is the Shakti of Maya, and the projecting power is the projecting power by which it makes this whole world, it projects this whole world. That is the content of the second verse, which we are going to do next week.
Okay.
The second verse is going to talk about that Maya Shakti. Your question, next week you will understand it much better.
Okay.
The second verse is dealing with the Tatpada, the Ishvara. And that is where it talks about the projecting power of how the entire waking state is coming. Very beautiful verse. The Sat aspect is going to be described next week. Okay. Yeah, Shama.
Sorry, this Mula Vidya, or the ignorance, does it get slowly unveiled or just like that?
It just happens like that.
Not slowly?
Not slowly.
No?
It just happens in a split second. It just
the
happens.
only reason why
one day
I'm
it happens. One day it happens.
Yeah.
How does the dream come? How does the dream come? Does it come slowly, or it comes in one shot?
No. The only reason I'm asking this is because as you do more and more nididhyasana or contemplation about what we are learning in Vedanta, your conscious awareness level of how you see things, the world, is very different. So
Yes.
this is what I meant.
Yeah, I agree.
So you say how, in other words, to me it looks like that basic Mula Vidya, which I was having a few months ago, is very definitely shifted.
Yeah, what the Vedantic scholars, when people ask such a question, they say, the way they answer is, they say your obstacles are getting removed.
Oh, I see.
You see, yeah. I have obstacles in understanding the ultimate. So my mind is having the obstacles, and what is happening is my obstacles are slowly getting away from me. I am able to see better and better.
Right. I was
And
only wondering.
this is called as pratibandha. Pratibandha. Pratibandha in Sanskrit means obstructed jnanam. Pratibandha, pratibandha jnanam.
Okay, that's very nice word.
Pratibandha jnanam.
Wonderful.
This is explained in Vichara Sagara.
Acha.
The entire 5th chapter is talking about this particular this question which you're asking. It is the whole chapter of almost like 100 topics, 100 verses.
In
On this
Vichara,
one, yeah,
on Vichara Sagara,
Vichara
which you have already completed, haven't you?
we have completed, but then I've not taken it like the first verse of the like the one verse. I've taken 3 sessions now. So
Okay.
you need to understand.
The reason also I asked, because I was recollecting Ramanujam's story, how come, because when he came to Oxford or Cambridge, to England, these teachers were asking him, the professors, and they didn't believe him. They kept asking him, how do you give us the derivation? He knew the answers, and they used to say, no, you have to give the whole work out,
Yeah, that's
the
correct. I read
calculation.
that story.
And he used to say, no, I see it.
Yes.
And I was thinking, I mean,
yeah, he's
this
seeing
really,
it. Yeah, he's seeing it. Shankaracharya is saying, I'm seeing the reality.
Yeah.
And I want to explain it to you. I want to explain that Atma to you. It's so clear in my mind. You see, which is what this.
Because there is no pratibandha.
No pratibandha, no obstacle.
Right, I see.
Unobstructed,
so all the real.
Unobstructed knowledge is the final.
And so in a wake
realization.
So in their waking state, the sleep state and all that, they continue to be in the same.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Awake state. Thank you.
It's quite a long session of Q&A. We'll close today.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, we had 45 minutes of Q&A today. If you have more.
My God. Oh God.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, we'll continue next week, but keep your thinking cap on, and the second verse is extremely important also, which we'll touch up. So Rohit, your question will be answered next week a little bit more deeper.
Thank you, Shri.
Okay.
Thank you.
And good night.
Good night.
Good night. Shubharatri.